What's going on, YouTube? This is Dr. Diddy here. D-Diddy or just Diddy, you can call me whatever you want, I don't really care. However, I am really excited to be bringing you yet another Pokemon trading card game online video here. So, if you're excited to see what tweaks I've made to this otherwise typical metal deck, based on some of the new releases that came out yesterday in the Ancient Origins set, feel free to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button down below it. I would really appreciate it, as this channel is starting to grow incrementally, and I would really like to see that continue in the future. Everything helps. So, in this metal deck, the primary attacker that you're going to be using is Dialga-EX. It's a great EX card, standard 180 HP. It's got 2 attacks that are both very viable in the current format. First being Chrono Wind, with 1 metal and 2 colors energy being in the cost, does 60 damage. 60 damage is a little negligible, but its secondary effect is really why it's worth mentioning. If the defending Pokemon is a Pokemon EX, it can't attack during your opponent's next turn. So, if you're unable to KO your opponent's Pokemon, you can feel free to use the Chrono Wind attack to prevent your opposing Pokemon EX from being able to attack during the next turn. Now, this can be countered by Keldeo plus Floatstone, Escape Rope, Switch, a few other things, etc. But I think it's still definitely a worthwhile attack to keep in your back pocket. However, you're probably not gonna, or hopefully you won't have to use it very often, because you'll be using the full Metal Impact attack otherwise. For 2 metal energy and 2 colorless energy, you'll be doing 150 damage, with the secondary effect being that you have to discard 2 metal energy attached to this Pokemon. Now, if you're going to try to get one-hit knockouts using the full Metal Impact attack here, you're going to need a few boosters, since it's only doing 150 and all Pokemon EX are at least 170 or 180, so that's why we're running the 3 muscle bands that I have down here. So that'll be pushing your damage output to about 170 damage, which is able to get those one-hit knockouts on the majority of the Pokemon in the format. The only Pokemon that wouldn't get knocked out by that are basically some of the bulkier EX Pokemon or the Mega EX Pokemon. So, moving on, you'll notice that one of the effects of the full Metal Impact, is that you have to discard the 2 metal energies attached to Dialga-EX. And that is pretty unfortunate, because the attack in and of itself already costs 4 energy to use, 2 metal energy plus a DCE. So that's a little unfortunate that you have to discard those 2 cards. So in order to be energetically efficient, right, that's always a goal in every deck that we build, as well as to try to keep the rate of attacking up in this deck, you're going to be using the Metal Lynx ability of the Bronzong. We're running 2 of these in the deck, a 2-2 line of Bronzor and Bronzong. The Metal Lynx ability allows you, once per your turn, before you attack, you may attach a metal energy from your discard pile to one of your benched Pokemon. It's important to recognize the benched Pokemon in that ability. You can only attach discarded metal energies to Pokemon that are on your bench and not your active Pokemon. However, it's still definitely a very, very, very crucial card to this deck to keep those energies recycling if you're discarding them every turn. So we're going to try to get 2 of these out, basically in all of our matches, to keep our attackers attacking each turn. Now, another Pokemon worth mentioning here is the H/EX. This can be a closer in a lot of matches, or just you can use it for the entire match. Basically, H/EX has the ability Mighty Shield, which prevents all damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Pokemon with special energies attached to them, which is a great ability, considering that pretty much every deck does run special energies in the current format, whether that's any of the individual, Rainbow Energy, or the new Darkness Energy, or Herbal Energy, Strong Energy, and pretty much every deck also runs double colorless energy. So, and any Pokemon that has any of those abilities, energies attached to them, cannot do any damage to H/EX. And its Slash Blast attack does 40 and plus an additional 20 for every metal energy attached to it. So you can definitely see there's some synergy with between this card and Bronzong as well. So we're running 1 copy of this. It's nice to be able to switch out into a Mighty Shield and then prevent your Pokemon from doing any damage if you need to slow down, if you haven't got enough energies in play, for example. Now, I'm also running 1 Cobalion EX. Cobalion EX, I think, is definitely worthwhile to run in this deck, not because of its Righteous Edge, although that is also a good stall tactic if you need to, because you can discard special energy attached to the defending Pokemon, and for only 1 energy you can do 30 damage, so that's pretty cool, I would say. But the Steel Bullet does 100 damage, and this attack's damage is not affected by weakness, resistance, or any other effects on the defending Pokemon, and you heard it right, any other effects. So that means that any ability, such as Safeguard, is neutralized by this attack. So it's Pokemon EX that can break through Safeguard. So Without this card, basically this deck would not function very well against Pyroars or anything that runs a Sigilyph or anything like that, so I think definitely worthwhile to be running at least one copy of the Cobalion in this deck. Now we have one other problem that I've described in this deck, and that is with the Bronzong, you can only attach your discarded metal energies to your benched Pokemon. Now, in order to move these around, because essentially you'll be using Full Metal Impact with a Dialga-EX, lose those 2 metal energies and only have 2 attached, or your double Colorless left attached to your Dialga, you're going to need a way to get this Dialga to your bench, reattach those energies, and then bring it out again to attack with it. Now we have 2 of them in the deck, so hopefully you'll have both of those out, and then you can alternate between each Dialga each turn. And the way that we're going to be doing that is with the newly released Ancient Origins Beldum Metang Metagross line. It's really awesome. We can take a look at Beldum. Doesn't really matter, it's just a basic. Metang evolves. You can use these attacks if you need to. They're not altogether that horrible, but really the important one is Metagross. Metagross here is a Stage 2 with 150 HP, so that's pretty cool. And it has the Magnetic Warp ability. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may switch your active Pokemon with one of your benched Pokemon, and if you do, your opponent switches his or her active Pokemon with his or her benched Pokemon. So this basically works as a substitute for Keldeo and Floatstone. This allows you to switch out your Pokemon each turn once you get your Metagross out, and that can keep your attackers attacking since you'll be attaching metal energies via the Metal Links to your benched Pokemon. So great synergy with this card and the rest of the deck, and since it was just released yesterday, I'm dying to try it out, so pretty excited to do that. It also has the Iron Cannon ability, or excuse me, attack that for 4 energies or 2 metal and a double colorless, you can do 80 damage, and you can also discard all the metal to do an additional 80 damage for 160 damage, which that actually is really awesome, and I plan in the future to build a deck solely around this as the primary attacker and run a bunch of them in the deck, because I think that'd be really cool and actually pretty viable. So let me know if you're interested in seeing a video like that too. But this also does serve as a secondary counter to those Safeguard Pokemons because it's a Stage 2, and it still has this pretty decent attack. You could hook up a Muscle Band to this, and if you discard those metal energies, doing 180 damage, so you can actually get one-hit knockouts on Pokemon EX with this Pokemon too, so pretty cool. Now the last Pokemon, few Pokemon in this deck, I'm running one copy of the Dialga-EX with the Stellar Guidance ability. This basically has a place, I think, in every competitive deck in the current, like, just forever. It's so great. When you play it from your hand onto your bench, you can search for a supporter. So if you got an Ultra Ball in your hand and you can play it, you can get a supporter for each turn, basically, if you have, well, for each turn if you haven't played it already. But something also worth noting is that it has the Hypno Strike. This is a metal Pokemon as well. And it has the Hypno Strike attacks, which does 60 damage for 3. Not that great, but it does put the defending Pokemon to sleep as well as this Pokemon. However, that won't happen if you are forced to use this as an attacker, which has happened to me before, since we are running the Steel Shelter 2 copies in here, which prevents all metal Pokemon in play from being affected by special conditions. So there is even some synergy there with that supporter grabbing Pokemon in this deck. Now, we'll take a look at the last Pokemon in this deck. I'm running a one line of Klinklang, and Klinklang, which has the Plasma Steel ability. This is going to get rotated out of the current format pretty soon, so I wanted to use it before it goes. The Plasma Steel ability allows you to, not allows you, but actually prevents any of your metal Pokemon from being damaged by Pokemon EX. Very often, my opponents will just straight up surrender and forfeit when they see that I get a Klinklang out onto the field, because their only attackers in their decks are Pokemon EX, and they have no way of damaging this, particularly if they don't have, even if they're running, Hypnotoxic Laser or something, because I can just play a Steel Shelter and then that's foiled as well. So definitely a great Pokemon. You're not going to be attacking with the Heavy Bullet, hopefully, but if you can get out a Plasma Steel Klinklang onto the field, that's pretty much game over for most decks. Now that we've gone through those, the Pokemon in the deck, I'll just quickly go over the trainer cards and the supporters. So I'm running 2 Battle Compressors. This is a pretty straightforward card. You probably know what it does already. It allows you to search your deck for 3 cards and discard them. So basically you'll grab 3 metal energies, throw them in the discard, and then you can start using your metal links to get those energy attachments onto your Dialga-EX or anything else that you're trying to use. Running 1 Bicycle, 1 Computer Search is the A-Spec card. I just think that it's a little more reliable than some of the other cards. Dowsing Machine might be useful as well, but I think it's kind of not relevant anymore. Running 1 Escape Rope, and then I'm also running 2 Switches. These are in case you don't get your Metagross out, or before you do. Basically, this allows you to switch your active with one of your bench Pokemon, because you can't attach, like I said, I've already explained before, you can't attach with the Metal Link's ability to your active. Moving on, I'm running 2 Evo Sodas and 2 Rare Candies because I have these 2 lines here that I think are really cool to get out. Or, excuse me, I have these 3 lines. This one is incredibly important, so the Evo Sodas are to get those Bronzongs out. Rare Candies because sometimes Clangs or Matangs, nice rhyme there, are prized, and you still want to get your Metagross and Kling out, so we have those as well. Now, I'm running 2 Startling Megaphones in this deck. It might be overkill, but I'm particularly worried about Garbodors in this deck because I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Pokemon in this deck that have abilities that I do not want to get neutralized, or Wobbuffets, you know, so running 2 Startling Megaphones I think is very important. I'm running 2 Ultra Balls, 2 VS Seekers, 2 Colress because, I mean, just look at all of the Pokemon that we're going to be putting on our bench. Colress is a great draw supporter for this deck. I'm running 2 Lysander, 2 N, 1 Pokemon Fan Club, 1 Professor Birch's Observations, 2 Juniper, 1 Teammates, 2 Steel Shelter as the Stadium card for the deck, those 3 Muscle Bands that I already described, and then for the energies I'm running 4 Double Colorless and 8 Metal Energies, running us out of 60 cards. Welcome back, guys. I'm here now showing you a few example matches of this metal deck that I just went over with you on the PTCGO. My opponent here using a water and normal type deck, so I'll be curious to see what he is in fact running on there. Looks like I will be going first. That's fortunate. Every additional turn helps because there's a pretty substantial amount of setting up that needs to occur. I have no basic Pokemon in my first hand, but I am able to start off with a Cobalion. That's pretty much the most common starter that I like to use in this deck whenever I'm given the option, just because with 1 energy attachment I am able to start doing 30 damage to my opponent's Pokemon. That can prove pretty effective. In my hand I also have a Battle Compressor. I'll definitely be using that in my first turn here once my opponent plays down some Pokemon onto his bench. To get some of those energies, metal energies, into the discard pile. I have an Ultra Ball as well, which is absolutely perfect because I can attach 1 energy and use the Ultra Ball to actually discard yet another energy. Go ahead and grab a Bronzong from my deck and put it onto my bench, so hopefully I can start using the Metal Link's ability and powering up a Dialga-EX or another attacker from my deck. So I'm going to go ahead and use the Ultra Ball here, discard a Metal Energy, and I'm going to hold on to the Colress because I can use that next turn as a supporter. I want to hold on to the Escape Rope as well, but I kind of want to hold on to the Evo Soda too in case I don't end up drawing what I need. So I'm going to actually discard the Escape Rope. It's early in the match. I could still pull out a Metagross or something, and I'm going to go ahead, take a look at everything I have here. I've got the Beldum, I got a Kling Klang, and a Kling Klang. I got the Beldum, the Metagross, and a Bronzong. I've got the Matang, another Bronzong, Dialga, and H/, another. So I've got all the stuff for both my evolution lines, which is really good. Lay the Bronzor down, and I will. Oh, I haven't even played a supporter yet this turn. I'm gonna go ahead and Colress right now for 4. Booyah! Could have held on to the Evo Soda for my next turn, and probably should have done that just so I could actually get that Metal Links going right away, but I got greedy, and that is what happens. So that's fine, however. There's always the option for me to top deck the card that I need in the future. My future turn, you know. I could draw Professor Birch's Observations or an N or something like that. I mean, heck, a Colress would even be good. I don't need the Matang. I've got both the Metagross and the Beldum, so I can just use a Rare Candy for that. So my opponent's deck is an Articuno deck. Looks like probably with the Deluge Blastoises. I can see him building those up here. So those are threatening. I'm going to want to take those out if I can. I have a DCE, so I'll attach that to the Dialga-EX next turn. Hopefully I can get a supporter right here. The Articuno getting some of that energy acceleration going. Find Ice, searches for 3 water cards and puts them in their hand. So if he does have a Blastoise in his hand, next turn he will be able to play all 3 of those waters if he so chooses. Potentially doing 100 damage with Freezing Wind. Be pretty unfortunate, but I did top deck a VS Seeker, which is absolutely perfect because now I can reuse that Colress that's in my discard pile here. Draw onto 5 more cards. Hopefully giving me a little bit more to work with here as I grab the Steel Shelter, which is great, the Aegis/EX, which probably won't end up being that useful, unfortunately, because my opponent likely is not running any special energies. So a bit disappointing, but because his Articuno is weak to Steel, my Righteous Edge was able to do double damage for 60. His Squirtles are weak to grass, so I won't have that same luxury when I'm trying to take down his Deluge Blastoise in the future here. I think my opponent would have played the Deluge Blastoise if he had had it in his hand by now, so looks like I will be able to squeeze by one more turn before he likely will draw onto that. So his energy attachment to that other Articuno on his bench is going to let me know that he will not be doing any damage to me as well, so I will be able to KO this Articuno next turn, drawing onto a prize card. It's going to help us out here. Looks like he's Lysandering me out into my Aegislash, which is a bit of an annoyance because I am unable to attack with that during my next turn. Unless I draw onto a switch or an escape rope, something along those lines. My opponent ending his turn right there, and I was not able to draw onto the card that I was hoping to. That is fine, however, because I can go ahead, attach this Metal Energy to my Dialga-EX. I'm going to also... It already has a Muscle Band attached to it, so I'm going to attach a Muscle Band to my Dialga-EX. I don't foresee Aegislash being very useful, like I said. I don't think that he is running special energy in his deck, I guess, because the Deluge Blastoise just is very powerful, and you don't really need double colors, for example, when you have the ability to play as many water energies each turn as you want. So my opponent was able to grab an Evo Soda and a Wartortle there, so he will be able to play the Deluge Blastoise there, unfortunately. Great card. And he's using Professor's Letter too, so he probably has, 6 water energies to play yet this turn, so things are going to get dicey here. I would predict he'll probably retreat with Wartortle, attach a bunch of energies to... Oh, he does have the DC. A bunch of energies to this Blastoise, and probably will do Hydro Pump to do a bunch of damage to my Aegislash here. Not knocking it out, likely, though. Or actually, he opts to go to the Articuno instead, so that'll be doing 100 damage with Freezing Wind this turn to my Aegislash-EX. My mom got me this coffee chocolate that I'm really pumped to eat. Hold it up here. I don't know if you can see that, but it's going to be really good. I'm trying to refrain from eating it as long as I can, just because I think that anticipation helps build excitement, right? Right? So, the Deluge Blastoise coming out here, fully powering up the current Articuno, as well as one in the back. It's got 1 energy on that Blastoise as well, so 2 energies there. I think that's 3 energies there. Okay. 1 more, and he's able to use that Hydro Pump. And he... Yep, there it is. Okay, great. So, I wonder if his last... Okay, that's not... Fortunately, he's got 3 powered-up attackers. Jeez, wow, this is getting a little stressful here, so... Unfortunately, my Aegislash is going to get knocked out this turn. I don't have supporter this turn, so things are not boding very well for me at this time. I'm just going to have to let my Aegislash get knocked out. I don't have a second Metal Energy to get my Dialga running. They're all in the discard pile, and I haven't talked up to supporter, so... Unfortunately, my only option here really is... I don't even want to attach this double colorless because I don't have anything worthwhile to attach it to. Both of these Pokemon have Muscle Bands, no reason to attach it to them. So my only option really would be to... So I had 2 options there. I just ended my turn, but I could have either attached the double color, do what I just did, which is not attach the double colorless, or I could have attached the double colors to the Bronzor, and when he KOs it with my Aegislash with his Articuno, go out to the Bronzor and then retreat into the Dialga. That is what I could have done. However, I am instead going to go out into the Cobalion because I know I will be able to KO out this Articuno with my Righteous Edge attack. I was able to draw onto the Professor Fan Club, so at least I have that. That will allow me to grab onto a Clink and to this Dialga-EX, which will allow me to grab a supporter for next turn. Definitely want to start... I don't know why I even bothered grabbing a Clink. It's worthless. It's not going to help me in this match. He's not using any Pokemon EX. Which is the inherent benefit of this type of deck if you were able to pull it off, which my opponent has been, because I have not been drawing the cards that I need. takes a while to get up those evolution lines, but once you get a Deluge Blastoise out here, he's doing 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 damage with his Hydro Pump this turn. Using the Energy Retrieval, he's going to draw onto 2 more of those water cards too. If he attaches them to this, he'll be doing 120 damage this turn. I don't think he'll put them there though. He's going to evolve that into the Vaporeon and then probably onto the Wartortle as well, or Glaceon, excuse me. Puts 1 energy on there. The other energy also goes on there, so we'll be able to use the Ice Edge probably on this next turn if I even last that long. So finally drew onto this Bronzong. Gonna get some energy acceleration going on here. Gonna finish off my the 4 necessary to use the Dialga-EX for 150 damage, knocking this thing out. That's definitely excellent. I have a double colorless and another metal energy here, so I will attach the... I think I will attach the metal energy to my Caballand here and then retreat it. Okay, whew. For some reason I thought that I would be forced to retreat, but I'll go ahead and use the metal links now before I retreat. Don't want to be making any misplays here. Use the metal energy here, attach this final metal energy to my Dialga here with the Muscle Band. I will be able to do 170 damage, knocking out this Blastoise with my heavy metal impact. Go ahead and retreat out into the Dialga here. And it's going to be important that I grab a supporter for next turn as well. So what I will do is use the Dialga-EX and Stellar Guidance for a supporter. I don't want to be giving my opponent any more cards as well, so I will go ahead and grab a Colress here. Draw onto 7 cards. Sounds pretty good to me. And I did draw a Beldum. That is an option as well, I suppose. I could grab that. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 metal energies in my discard, so I don't particularly want to play it though, in case I can draw some sort of Dialga next turn. Be a little bit better. I really need to start getting something else powered up though. What will that be? I have the Professor Birch's observations, so I guess that's something. I could lay the Beldum and start powering that up to start doing some attacks here. My opponent will be doing 100 damage to me next turn, or will be doing 90 damage with that, so that is not... Yes, resume. I guess I will just... Yeah, I'll just lay it. Why not? I can maybe draw a rare candy and get a Metagross out or something. Go ahead and attach a Muscle Band here. The Beldum itself is actually a pretty decent card, like I talked about earlier. Go ahead, full metal impact here, doing 170 damage, knocking out that Blastoise, and allowing me to draw onto 1 more additional prize card here. I forgot that I have the Steel Shelter out, but that would have prevented me from... Oh, this is a different Articuno. I guess I was thinking of the half-art Articuno that does inflict a status on my Pokemon, but I was mistaken on that part. I will go ahead and lay the double colorless onto the Beldum just because I'm trying to get that as my attacker now. And I'm actually going to use the Bronzong Metal Links to put another energy onto that Beldum as well. Really hoping that when I use this Professor Birch's observations here that I will be able to get a rare candy and the Metagross in my hand at the same time. But that doesn't seem particularly likely. So what I will do instead is actually use the VS Seeker to grab a hold of a Colress here. Gonna grab a hold of Colress. Allows me to consistently draw 6 cards instead of potentially only drawing 4 because of the Birch's observations, or 7 cards, excuse me, so that's even better regardless. Drew a Switch and a Computer Search. That is incredibly good. I'm gonna go ahead and discard the Steel Shelter. I don't foresee my opponent playing another Stadium card, and he doesn't seem to be playing any item cards either, so I'll discard the Startling Megaphone. Use the Computer Search to grab a hold of the, not the Metagross, but rather the Metang that is right here. So I can evolve it this turn and hopefully evolve it into the Metagross in my next turn as well. So the Matang here actually is kind of interesting because I could use 50, could do 70, 90, 110 would not be enough yet to KO the Articuno, and then it would just KO that. So it doesn't seem like the very best option for us here. However, I don't have a much better option either. I guess I will retreat my Dialga-EX and go out into this Clink, which doesn't serve me any purpose and can just buy me another turn before I get KO'd and lose the game. So this Articuno will be able to KO my Clink here. Fine with me only drawing into one prize card and freeing up a spot on my bench. In my hand, I've got some energies and a switch, and now the question will be what to send out. I could send out Cobalion, would only be doing 30, 50, 100 damage to this thing. Dialga would just get KO'd. Can't use Jirachi. Only have one Bronzong, so I think I'm going to have to send out the Matang, attach an energy to it, and then go with the Juniper, trying to draw onto that Metagross. Really trying here. So going to attach a Metal Energy here. Going to discard both of my switches. Might as well use the Metal Link's ability here. Put a couple of these energies onto, I think, the Cobalion, because I don't want to put a bunch of energies on another thing that I won't be able to attack with. Use the Juniper here, and do I draw the Metagross? Yes, I do draw the Metagross, thankfully. Whew. So, I will be able to knock out this Articuno with the super effective Iron Cannon here, doing 160 damage. Knocking it out, or 200 damage, excuse me. I forgot about the muscle band I attached to this thing. Pretty excited that Metagross is actually working out, not only because of its ability. I haven't used the ability yet, but I do have it out in the field, but because I was able to use it as an attacker as well, demonstrating that it probably will be effective as an attacker when I build a deck around it in the future. Looking forward to that, definitely. My opponent playing the Rough Seas there, also laying down the Dialga-EX very late in the game, so that's a little surprising. I only have 10 cards remaining in my deck though, so this is a little worrisome, but I did top deck the Lysander, so that is absolutely excellent on my part there. I'm going to go ahead. I don't know why Evo Soda says you can play it when, of course, you can't. I don't have anything that can evolve via it, so I'm going to go ahead, play the Dialga-EX, and actually I'm just going to go at, so I have a few options here. I could go Lysander out the Kyogre and start doing damage to that, which I could actually KO this turn if I discarded all the two metal energies attached to this, which would do 160, 180 damage, knocking it out, and then requiring me to only draw into one more prize card to win the game. I guess I'll use the Metal Links, no reason not to. I'm just going to keep attaching them to the Cobalion just because it already has one energy and doesn't really matter. However, I kind of want to discard. What I'm going to do instead is actually I'm going to end my opponent down to 3 cards because he's got a lot of cards in his hand there. I'm going to use End to try to prevent him from being able to play any cards that he wants here. And then I'm going to go ahead and use the Iron Cannon here to KO his Wartortle, because the last thing I want is him being able to get yet another Deluge Blastoise out and be able to attach a bunch of energies to that Cobalion. Definitely do not want that to happen, so I'm going to draw into one more prize card here, as I've actually taken the lead now, despite the fact that I was playing down for the entire match. Somehow managed to make it through here. This Glaceon does 10 damage to each of your opponent's bench Pokemon and 30 damage to this, so that would be unable to KO any of my Pokemon, but I see why he would go for that for sure. Definitely understand that. As I, once again, am not able to do a single thing other than go for the Metal Links attach to my Cobalion here, which will be doing 100 damage, and I could actually use my Metagross's ability to keep this thing around a bit longer. Bring that out. It only has 3 energy attached to it. It needs 4 to do what it needs to, so I'm going to actually do that. I'm going to use the ability to bring out my Cobalion here, force my opponent to switch to the Kyogre, and then get some well-needed damage via Steel Bullet onto this thing. I'm doing 120 damage because of the Muscle Band there. My opponent is able to use the Water Pulse, but then I can, of course, just switch next turn if I needed to with my Metagross's ability. That would bring out his Glaceon, which is a bit unfortunate. However, what I did, I think, was the correct move, because my opponent here will now knock out my Cobalion. He'll draw into 2 prize cards, allowing me to go out into my Metagross, and then I can KO this Dialga-EX with my Metagross, and then win the game, drawing out those last 2 prize cards. My opponent actually opting to just go for the Water Pulse, realizing that if he went for the Giant Whirlpool, the game would be over. So my Metagross does have those 4 energies attached to it, which is perfect for me. I think I have this game won either way now. Let me just go over it one more time as I use the Metal Links and start putting energies onto this Dialga-EX. Just because I think that you do need to have, if you have the option to do so, you might as well do so just in case something happens. But I can use the Metagross here. Let me just work this out, switch this out, and the Metagross out. Attack this, the Glaceon, kill it. He'll knock out my Metagross with the Giant or maybe he won't knock it out with the Giant Whirlpool. But either way, I will be able to use the ability, bring out my Cobalion here, and then win the game. So I will be doing that at this time. As you can see, you can use the Metagross's ability on itself there. So I'll go ahead, use the Iron Cannon. I don't believe I need to discard all my energies to knock this thing out because it does 100 by itself and it's super effective, so it does 200. I'll draw into 1 more prize card, and my opponent is forced to go into the Dialga-EX here. He'll have to use the Water Pulse unless he just decides to forfeit, considering he'll already have lost. This thing has 120 HP remaining, so he will knock me out here, and I actually will be able to win because I do have the Muscle Band on here. Phew, I thought for a second there I was only going to be doing 100, but good game to my opponent here, so I'll go ahead and just message him good game. Now, notice that, again, I'm using the Metal Links here, even though I have the game won, just because if I click something wrong, this has happened to me before, something could get screwed up regardless, so I am going to do that. Go for the Steel Bullet here, 120 damage, knock out my opponent's Dialga-EX, and take the victory there. So I think that's a really good example of what this metal deck can do for you if you do try it out. So feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe down below if you liked what you saw, and if you want to see more. I would love to see your own takes on the deck too. So if you have anything like that, feel free to share it with me. But I'm just going to call it quits here. I am Dr. Diddy, and thanks so much for watching. I'll catch you next time. Later.